All right, welcome to the podcast, episode 30 of season 4. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And this is Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. I don't even know if I said Side Action at the top, by the way. Action. We're a little off this week. We're taping a day late. We've had lots of weird things that have happened the last couple of days. But as you can see, if you're on YouTube, you can see our esteemed Action with his new Circa hat and his Purdue garb. So he is fully decked out, promoting Circa and his Boilers.
Yeah, this is about the only thing that I won on Thursday. And I had to pay for it. So I don't even think I could call it a win. This hat here, I figured it would be a good addition to my repertoire so that I can rep Circa all over town.
That's right. Attaboy. Attaboy. Yeah, and as you know, we had a big weekend out in Vegas. It was a good time. We had Prime as well as Night Ranger with us, and there were some fun times. I mean, I can't say there was some calamity like we've had in years past, but we had some hot rolls. We did hit obviously Stadium Swim, which was a ball. It was a little cool to start the day. We were there at 8 in the morning. It was a little chilly. Everybody was under the towels. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
We had some good sports bets going. We had a rough start in the brackets, at least I did, but we bounced back and got some wins and some great games over the weekends for sure. It was like incredible games. And I don't know what the highlight for you, actually. There were a couple of highlights for me. One personally, when I had the hot roll at, I think it was Golden Gate. We had that.
Yeah.
We were there for like 4 hours till like 4 in the morning. And I don't know, I was slapping high fives and Prime picked me up after I won him like $2,000 on a roll or something. And the other one was when we did the roll on St. Patrick's Day evening at O'Shea's. It wasn't necessarily our roll. It was that lady. It was like her rookie roll, and she ended up rolling all the numbers on her first try, which is incredible. She'll probably never do it again for the rest of her life.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't forget on Wednesday night at Paris when we hit the bonus and I caught a little heat from the pit boss who decided to get in my face because he thought I was, quote, manipulating the dice. And he knew what you were doing.
You knew it. I know he said that. You knew what you're doing. Yeah, winning.
That was good.
Well, we had that little narc. You said the narc dealer was
right.
all over you, but anyway, that's hilarious. So, but great trip. Obviously, we'll hope to replicate the September trip, and just kind of keep this rolling. It's been a good time the last couple of years, and it was a good time. And Vegas was teeming with life. I don't know about you, Actually, you've been back there since I went in September, but marked difference, at least from last year to this year, and even from I remember when we went in September of 2019, which was a big trip, first opening NFL weekend. There was more people there, even this weekend. So Vegas is back. Sure.
Yeah, and I mean, back from a general sense too. I saw a number of people who didn't really even pay attention to basketball. It seemed like it was just like the normal crowd that was out and about on the street throughout the weekend. So I was definitely glad to see that.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, some wild scenes as always, but we didn't get anything major trouble, which is in some ways disappointing, but some ways probably for the best. So, well, let's jump into it here. Actually, it's going to be kind of a shorter episode. I don't know if you end up putting golf on here, but we're recording Thursday the 24th. The Sweet 16 is about to tip off in like about an hour and a half or so. We weren't able to tape yesterday, but we'll go over both the games this week and maybe potential Elite Eight matchups from this weekend. But let's go over the teams remaining. I like how you did this. So Action has adapted his index to just the Sweet 16, as I've done with the Ken Palm ratings that I do. So let's walk through this. And obviously we lost some huge, we haven't done a full recap, but you lost some big teams at the top. So there aren't the full top 10. You've lost a couple big teams, but you still have several of them from the original top 10.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see that in the Action Index here. I think I count at least 11 out of the top 16 in my index are still remaining. And there's, of course, 5 additional teams below that, the bottom 5 teams being Michigan, Providence, Iowa State, Miami, and St. Peter's. But it's pretty coincidental that many 11 of those top 16 teams are still alive, and I maintain that any number of those teams could probably win the championship And I'll even add Providence in there because they have such an incredible luck factor this season.
Yeah, I mean, we try to go against Providence again. A little foreshadowing. They came through not just once but twice. And then there's certain teams as you have in your index. The 15th team, number 15 in your index is North Carolina. They obviously, spoiler alert, they beat Baylor in an epic game, but they've been on a tear, and they're dangerous too, and they're coming out of really the side of the bracket with the 1 seed gone. That whole bracket's kind of destroyed, right? Because is the 4 seed gone in that one too?
Yes, yeah, that was. Oh no, UCLA is the 4 seed.
UCLA is a 4 seed there.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I mean, so they got to still get through UCLA, but I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's kind of wide open in that bracket in particular. So we'll see what happens. And obviously we'll kind of jump into the results, I guess, now. We won't go into the specifics, but one of the highlights that everybody should know by now is the St. Peter Peacocks. St. Peter's Peacocks. I didn't know the Peacocks were on Wednesday. Full disclosure. The trivia team, yesterday I did trivia. We finished second. We did great. Last week they sent me a picture of these mascots. I'm like, I know it's a peacock. I have no idea what school it's from. Oh, now I do. Everybody does. St. Peter's not only won their first ever game in the NCAA tournament, they won 2. They take out Kentucky, and then they took out Murray State, who you like to beat Kentucky. And this team isn't a traditional mid-major team. They're not a team that shoots 7, 10, 15 threes. They made 3 threes in beating Murray State. They're just a solid basketball team. And what I've heard is their coach is going to be going to Seton Hall. That's what I've heard.
Yep.
Because the Seton Hall guy's going to Maryland. So it's unfortunate that these teams have these great pop-up seasons and then they probably disappear. But I mean, they may have a shot this weekend.
St. Peter's? I don't think so. We can talk about that later.
Well, let's go over some of these. We obviously didn't have a stellar day, especially the first day of the tournament. I guess, we opened the game with Michigan CSU, the Rams, actually, let's light a candle for the entire Mountain West who went 0-4 in the tournament. We kind of talked about I talked about how great they were this year. And it was great they got 4 teams in, but they didn't get a single win, which was, you would mark that as an option that we should have, exercised against the Mountain West, which good call on that one, actually.
Yeah, I think that just adds to their terrible performance over the last 5 years. I think they certainly haven't gone over in recent tournaments, but San Diego State has won some games. But across the board, I think they're covering at probably a less than 15% clip recently. And it's certainly something to remember for next season.
Yeah, at CSU, it's a shame. I mean, I wish I would have bet the first half line because they were definitely dogs and they were up big at halftime. But Michigan figured them out, and unfortunately, your guy Roddy the Body, as you called him last week, I don't know what the hell they were doing. They weren't giving the ball. They weren't giving. When he did get the ball, he played good in the block, and then they forget about it. So, sorry, Rams. Good season, but you're out. We like the Jackrabbits. They didn't come through. The aforementioned Providence came through big. The game was close, but
yeah.
Fortunately, Providence did cover the number and won. Memphis was a team we liked, and they actually did perform well. They won the first game, did have the Zags in a position where they could have maybe won that game. They're up by 10 at halftime, but the Zags were able to survive in the second round. A team that kind of, maybe not a surprise, we had already mentioned North Carolina knocked off Baylor. That was a really interesting game, actually. I mean, they were down by 25 points with about, 7, 8 minutes to go in the game, and they came all the way back to tie the game, and I'm like, all right, Baylor's going to cover. But no, North Carolina was able to weather the storm, and frankly, some bad officiating. I think the ejection of the forward there for North Carolina was bullshit with the elbow. But, Baylor played pretty well. I just think they switched up to a pressing style defense, which, we can see if that matters this week.
I've heard an interview this week with Chris Spatola, who's the ESPN commentator, and he astutely recognized that the officiating in the Big 12 all season long has been very lenient in terms of allowing physical play go. And obviously we saw last week that the Big 12 teams got called for a lot of fouls. And certainly in that game, in the comeback, they allowed Baylor really to roughhouse North Carolina all over the court, which allowed them back into the game.
Well, I think that's kind of true for the Big 10 too, from what I've seen.
True.
I think that's one of the reasons why you saw a poor performance. A lot of people are talking about the poor performance of the Big 10. But it's true, if you're not going to get all those calls, or whatever, you're not going to let those plays go. I think it matters. Iowa was a victim to that, and that was a tough one. But Iowa couldn't hit a three, and that was their hallmark all season. So Richmond got the upset. What are some of the other ones? I mean, we talked about St. Peter's in Kentucky. Murray State did get the first one, but lost the second. Indiana, God, in the first four, they looked pretty good. And I really liked them in that St. Mary's game. And they got crushed. I don't even know what happened to that. It's almost like they kind of gave up midway through that game.
Yeah, the second half performance was dismal. And I think that part of it was due to just the schedule. They had played, 5 games in the last 7 days at that point, and their legs just caught up with them, plus the travel to Portland.
Right. A couple of these other ones on the bottom half, just kind of going through the bracket. I mean, Auburn, I wasn't big on Auburn this year. I just thought their draw was easy, but they proceeded to get knocked off on Sunday. So, the SEC has one team remaining. So I guess we were wrong. They were not the toughest conference in America. I was wrong. Big 12 came up bigger, and even the ACC, which I still contend they have a down year, but they definitely perform well in the tournament. But Auburn, I mean, they got crushed in their game. It was kind of shocking that Miami ran them out of the gym.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just didn't perform well on the road this season, and the neutral court venue was a key to that too.
Yeah, and then we like Texas Tech. We'll talk about them a little more this week. My Virginia Tech pick was awful, so I was on the wrong ACC teams, obviously. Chattanooga really should have beat Illinois. Illinois got beat pretty bad by Houston, but Chattanooga had that game. They led by all but 25 seconds and ended up losing the game. It's kind of a bummer, not just for my money line ticket, but also just, that was a team that was really good. Davidson, you were big on them to even beat Duke. But Michigan State kind of gritted it out at the end, and then they played really well against Duke. I thought that was one of the Big Ten performances.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they were in command in that game until very late, and ultimately it was a horrible beat if you were on Michigan State plus the points in that one because Duke got the cover.
Yeah, exactly. Couple other things. Wisconsin also got knocked out. Shocker. We thought it'd be against Colgate. Wasn't Colgate, it was the next game, but just kind of wild. And then even Notre Dame got a game. Notre Dame got a win. Rutgers blew that game in the first four, and we watched that game on, I think it was Wednesday, and Notre Dame ends up winning in overtime, and then they come out and beat Alabama. So we were right on the Alabama being weak, but I know you and I both flipped, thinking Notre Dame couldn't do it, but they played pretty well.
Yeah, I was impressed with Notre Dame on Sunday too against Texas Tech. They were right in that game and had a chance to win it at the end, but the Red Raiders just made more plays towards the end. So certainly a surprising and very good performance from the Irish.
Yeah, they closed the game, I think, on like a 10-0 run, if I'm not mistaken, with Texas Tech. So kind of wild. All right, so let's go over the Sweet 16 games. Obviously, I just realized I haven't even written an article this week, so I was going to put information on. I guess I'll wait till the Final Four. So here we go. So we start off with a game that's going to start in about an hour. Arkansas against the Zags. Now, the Zags were really pushed in both of their games. Even against Georgia State, they weren't playing too well. But they're open up. They're a 9.5-point favorite on the opener. I think they're 10 right now, at least at Rivers. 155-point total. They're playing in San Francisco. It looks like you're leaning to the Zags. Obviously the SEC hasn't shown well in this tournament, Arkansas being the last representative. I like the Zags and the points. I'm the Razorbacks and the points. I've been on them all year. 10 points I definitely like. 9.5 is tough, but you kind of think the Zags are going to basically learn from their first week's mistakes and come out smoking, right?
Well, I expect they're going to start slow again, to be honest with you, much like they have in the first 2 games. But I foresee this game coming down to the wire and Gonzaga just getting outside the number in the end. I think that Arkansas, while Jalen Williams on the inside is a terrific inside defender, he's really the only guy that they have. And I'm not sure that Arkansas defensively is going to be able to match up with both Timmy and Holmgren at the same time.
Sure.
And so I expect that Gonzaga is going to get a lot of points easy on the inside. And on the other side, I'm not sure that Arkansas is going to be willing to run with them like they normally would, because if Musselman chooses to run with them, they're going to get run right out of the gym.
They're going to get beat, yeah.
And so I think they're going to have to slow the game down a little bit, which is not really the way that they like to play effective offense. And
Sure.
so I just have a feeling that Arkansas knows that the slow game is the only way that they have a chance, and that's just going to allow them to score less points. And I'm probably not betting on it. I do lean to Gonzaga though. I like the under quite a
Sounds like
bit.
you like the under. Yeah, and
Yeah.
your handicap sounds like you like the under.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like 156 last I checked, and I'm projecting a total here 147. So pretty significant value on the under in this game for me.
Gotcha. You know, I'm just waiting for Musselman to take his shirt off and then showing his wife again. That's all I'm in. Yes.
Nice. Yeah,
Uh,
me too.
Next game is in San Antonio. It's Michigan against Villanova. Villanova, we didn't really talk about them in the opening weekend. They played very well. Solid. You know, they got pushed a little bit, but they certainly played well. The two
Mhm.
seed. Michigan's played very well. You know, they won pretty easily in the second game. So now here we go. Villanova is a 5-point favorite, 135-point total. You like Michigan plus the 5.5. It's interesting because I don't think you liked them most of the season, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I don't know. Actually, I want to hear your handicap because it looks like I'm against you both ways so far. And not that I love Villanova. I think that they're a good team. You just think Michigan's catching fire at the right time?
Yeah, and I think they're going to be without Devonte Jones again. The point guard only played 1 out of 4 quarters the opening weekend. He sat out the first round against Colorado State. And so then came back to play in the second game, and he's been trying to recover from that concussion that he had in the Big Ten tournament, and then immediately got knocked out again against
Right.
Tennessee. So for that reason, they've been going to the backup point guard, and this I think his name is Collins. The backup point guard is a terrific
He's played
defender,
great. He's played
and
great. Almost
I
better.
I think he's going to lock down on Gillespie. So I mean, kind of haphazardly, Howard presumably walked into this matchup nightmare that he's going to have on Gillespie, and I think Collins' ability to play defense on that side of the ball is going to be a big help for Michigan.
Right.
And on the other side, I think that Dickinson has a matchup advantage on the inside offensively.
He does. He always does. He's been a difference maker so far. I don't know. You know, Jay Wright's a really good tournament coach, and
Yep.
I don't think he's got the team to win it all this year, but I think that they could. I mean, they certainly have the makeup with the guard play, and their bigs. I mean, they play such solid basketball. Michigan in stretches plays like crap, and we'll see. And maybe you're right. Maybe they're catching. I like the other freshman, the what's his name, the shooter.
Houston.
Houston. I really like him a lot. He's playing really well. I think he's definitely the biggest impact player. I mean, he gets heat checks moments where he's jacking threes, but they need that. Should be a really good game. So I'm looking forward to that one tonight.
Yeah,
So
and
the
I
next,
think the total in this one, I mean, Villanova plays extremely slow pace, so
right,
I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. I'm not touching the total, but that was just another tick mark on the side of Michigan in terms of taking the points.
sure, because
But
it's a value.
yeah,
Mhm. Okay, here we go. So Texas Tech versus Duke. So we finally get like a matchup. Well, I guess the one for Arkansas Zags was, scripted. Here we
hmm
go. But Texas Tech versus Duke. This keeps on moving all over the board. I know you had it at -1, or I think it was -1 Duke early. Then I saw a +1 last night when I wrote it. Now it's minus a half a point Duke. So it's right hovering around that pick'em mark. 137-point total. It's the other game in San Francisco. Of course, you love Texas Tech. You've got them, you got a ticket on them.
hmm
Here's the question I have for you, and I think you probably watched the game. We were watching the game, right? The Duke Michigan State game together. Or
yeah. No, that was on Sunday. We were
that
back
was on
home.
Sunday. Okay, I watched this whole game, and Michigan State, as I said, played great, and they actually had like a 5 or 6 point lead or something late, and then Duke flipped a switch. And they're one of the only teams I think that can flip a switch. And it doesn't mean I think they're going to play, wall to wall in this one. But look, if they can play like that, they're going to win the title. I don't think I'm just telling you like that. They play the last 5 minutes, like the way they did the last 5 minutes of the last game for the rest of the tournament, they'll win it. But can they? I don't know. We talked about it. Coach K even said it himself. It wasn't him because we all know he doesn't coach anymore. It was his players. So I do think if they're going to let Texas Tech play the bully ball as they play, Duke doesn't. They're going to lose the game. I mean, Texas Tech's going to win, but I don't see that happening. I think this is a Coach K special where he's going to make it to Elite Eight. So I just think Duke's going to win this basketball game.
Unfortunately, I tend to agree in that if you're betting on Texas Tech tonight, it's going to be you versus the Duke 5 and the 3 officials, because
Right.
there's no doubt in my mind that Duke is going to get the benefit of a few whistles tonight.
Hmm.
And it's going to be tough to overcome for Texas Tech. But even having said that, I still like Texas Tech. I personally took them on the money line,
Hmm.
minus 110. That was when they were a favorite in this game, and now it looks like late on here, a couple hours till tip off, and you can probably catch one at most books here locally, domestically, even 1.5 at BetMGM. And I still think that Tech is the side in this game, and it's because of
Okay.
their defense. That
Yeah.
the ACC does not play defense like Texas Tech does, and I think it's going to
Yeah.
be a rude awakening for Duke tonight in this game.
Okay. Well, what about what happened to Baylor against North Carolina, who doesn't play defense? You just think because
Well,
they play?
yeah, I mean, North Carolina hit a ton of shots too.
Yeah.
That point guard got incredibly hot in the first half.
Yeah.
Um, and on the other side, I also think that Duke has been playing worse defensively lately. Allowing that many points to Michigan State on Sunday was a travesty. That Michigan
Yeah.
State does
I know
not
they
have an
don't score.
offense at
I
all.
know.
And in the last 7 games, Duke has played like 190th ranked defense if you filter it out on Bart Torvik. And so while Texas Tech is no great shakes on offense either, they're certainly better than Michigan State. And I think that they're going to get a lot of easy buckets tonight.
Okay. All right. We're on opposite sides all the way down here, America.
Interesting.
Let's go with the last one on Thursday here. Houston against Arizona. Arizona's a 1.5 point favorite. I see two at Rivers, 145.5 point total at San Antonio. And this is, we didn't talk about this game. Arizona was on the ropes. I mean, they were basically done. Should have been beat, likely in that game. But I mean, their guy, what's dude's name? Matherin? How do you
Yeah.
say his last name?
Benedict Matherin.
Yeah, the guy he's a stud, first of
Yeah.
all. Hit the big bank shot, right? Wasn't it a bank three or something?
No, I think he switched that one. There
Oh,
was
okay.
definitely a banker in there somewhere, but that one was nuts on.
But he made a great shot that was critical. And then in overtime, they didn't overwhelm. It was tight, but they played really well. Houston, I mean, Calvin Sampson took his shirt off. You saw that. I mean, and you didn't want to, but you did. Um, I just think that this is when Houston's going to run out of gas. I mean, they played good this last weekend. They played great, focused basketball. But I think Arizona, they got a big scare, and I think that's going to help them today. So I like the 1.5 for Arizona.
Yeah, it looks like you can even get a 1 in some spots now. I mean, Houston is definitely the sharp side in this game,
I
I would
know.
say.
Defense.
Yeah, that defense is going to be tough. But I think that out of any teams to go up against Houston, this Arizona outfit is certainly capable between Matherin and Coloco.
Yeah, he's good.
They have 2 players that Houston is not normally playing against in their American Athletic Conference. I mean, even compare him to Kofi Coburn, I think Coloco is probably a more athletic inside big. And the key to this game is for the Wildcats to block out defensively.
Get a
They
defensive rebound. Oh my God, TCU had
Mhm.
20 offensive rebounds in that game. 20.
And at TCU hits the glass in their own right. I think third ranked offensive rebounding outfit, but Houston is number 1. So
Yes.
this is definitely an area where I hope Coach Lloyd and the crew focused on this week. I have every expectation that they did.
They had.
And the key for Arizona is if they grab those offensive or defensive rebounds, then they're going to get a ton of easy runouts, because Houston crashing the glass is just going to make their transition defense even more porous, and that's where Arizona thrives. So I think that's going to be super interesting to see early on who is winning that battle, and if it's Arizona, they could win this game comfortably.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, let's move to tomorrow night's games. Well, I guess we should talk about potential matchups in the Elite Eight here.
Sure.
So, and it doesn't have to hold. Let's look the way you think. Do you think that you like the Zags in the first one and Michigan to win outright, or you think Villanova will win?
Villanova. I have Villanova in that game.
Okay. And so you still think Tech's going to be Duke and Arizona's going to be Houston.
Yeah.
So you've got the Zags against Tech, and then you've got Nova. Yeah, Nova, you said, against Arizona, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So in those games, where would you lean? I mean, it sounds like I know you've got Tech pretty far. Do you have them in your Final Four?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm sticking with my picks. I like Texas Tech and Arizona in those games.
Right. And look, I like Arizona in those games. I like Arizona in both games as well. I'm not sure. I mean, I did the Zags beating Tech. I do have Tech in my bracket. I got a sneaky feeling about Duke, man. I hate to put it out there and get bad juju. My bracket's toast. You got a chance. Um, I kind of think Duke is going to take. I think Duke's going to take Tech. I think they're going to beat Zags too if they win. And maybe the officials are helping. I'm not saying Duke's going to win the title. That's not what I'm saying. But if they play to their talent, I think they can. So I'm not rooting for it, by the way. I would definitely like Tech or even the Zags to advance out of there.
I appreciate your rooting interest. That Duke already beat Gonzaga once this season, so they're certainly capable.
Right. But in your mind, Tech would take out the Zags, and then you think Arizona beat Villanova. Would that be fairly easily, or do you think that would, because Nova, they don't have the athletes, they don't have the horses to run with those guys, right?
Right. Well, I definitely wouldn't say that Villanova is going to get beaten handily with their guard play. They're pretty steady, but I do have Arizona as about 5 points better than them.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then that Zags line with, say, Tech, they got to be pretty well favored in that game. So you definitely like an underdog, like a money line situation there.
Yeah, I do. I make that one about 6, almost 7 points.
Okay, so you heard it here, folks. If Tech gets through against the Zags, take that money line. Take that money line. Got to be a juicy one.
Number one offense versus number one defense should be quite the entertaining game.
That's right. Well, let's go to the Friday, Sunday games. You've got St. Peter's against your Boilers. I can see where you're leaning on that one. 12 and a half point favorites for the Boilers at 135 point total, 35 and a half point total. So, 12 and a half is a pretty big number for such a low total game. And St. Petersburg game, for the first 2 rounds, obviously Purdue gets to prepare for them for 5 days, which is critical. And do you think that's the differential? I mean, obviously, St. Peter's doesn't have 2 7-footers, but we've said this before in other matchups when Purdue just inexplicably gets ground, their offense gets ground to a halt, and their defense isn't that great, and then they get beat. So I don't think it's this game, but you think St. Peter's can get within that number?
I think the spread is tough, to be honest with you. I make it 12.4, so it's no play for me. Personally, I think if I were to be betting on the underdog here, I would probably like them a little bit more in the first half, thinking that they're going to be up for a game initially, but then probably fizzle out late in the second half. But for me, my pick in this one is the under. I think despite Purdue's lack of defensive effort in some games this season, they have been remarkably better in the last several games on that end of the floor. And I think that they're going to have a game plan ready for St. Peter's. So I also think you have the added bonus of the large spread in this round of the tournament historically lends itself to a lot of unders. And Purdue, same argument to the Gonzaga and Arkansas game. I think that you're looking at an under in this one as well.
Okay. Again, this regional's in Philadelphia. So then Providence against Kansas. Kansas is a 7.5 point favorite, 141.5 point total. This is in Chicago, in the Chi. So I'm on Kansas here, and I don't love the Kansas Jayhawks, full disclosure, but I just, at some point, this Friar train has to stop. I mean, 7.5 is a big number. They play a lot of close games, but I don't know. Can Providence slow down this offense? And I'm not really sure,
Yeah. Yeah, this is a tough one for me. And honestly, I determined that I'm just going to pass this game altogether. I don't really have much on the side of the total. I do make it Kansas -9, but they have been under impressive so far. I was extremely surprised that Creighton kept the game that close.
They did.
I think the 3-point shooting was a major factor, obviously, and you can't really handicap that. But I would probably have a lean to Kansas, but it's a no bet for me on both sides in total.
Well, and Creighton had like a mash unit, right? Didn't they have like a guy?
Definitely.
They showed the bench, and they got the one guy on. He's like got the leg brace. The other guy's got the cast on his arm. It was like a. I mean, they still hung tough, man.
Yeah, they were tied with like a minute left in that game.
Amazing. Okay, the other 2 games. The Philadelphia game is North Carolina at UCLA versus UCLA, UCLA is a 2.5-point favorite, 141.5-point total. You like UCLA, you like the Bruins. I know you love Jenny Juzang. We know what happened last year, but UCLA, they struggled a bit too over the weekend, right? They didn't play great.
The first game, certainly.
Yep. And North Carolina is playing amazing. Do you think that this line is depressed because of North Carolina's performance? Like it's a public bet?
Yeah, that, and I think it's also a little bit of a tweener line because of the status of Jaime Jaquez.
Right.
He has a hurt ankle, and apparently I've been trying to read every single thing I can this week on him and not really gleaning much information. I did see one video of him walking to the bus, very gingerly, I'll add. But I think he's going to play tonight, and for that reason, I think that there's value on UCLA here at the current number of 2.5, I think, mainly across the board. And I also like Mick Cronin as a coach in this tournament, and I think that it's an advantage for UCLA to have the extra rest ahead of this one in prep time because their defense is excellent, 13th ranked, and I think that they're going to have something prepared for that North Carolina recently hot offense.
Yeah, they are on fire. I don't know, man. I certainly 2.5 is a nice line. I kind of see this if Jaime is going to play. I kind of feel like this is going to float up, but maybe not. Originally when I saw this matchup, I'm like, I'm on North Carolina right away. When I saw 2.5, I'm like, what? I mean, not that I'm shocked by it, and maybe it's just a Ken Palm line. I just thought UCLA would be a bigger favorite, and I would take the dog. But when it's 2.5, I mean, it's just a bucket. I mean, that's free throws, down the stretch. The game's close. You hit a few free throws, you win by 3 or 4, and that's it. So it's a stay away for me, but I did like North Carolina if it's a bigger spread.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I do think that one way or another, once the news of Jaquez comes out, that you're going to see this number move. And maybe he's going to play, but he's going to be limited. And so in that case, you may not see much movement at all. But I do think if he's announced end, you might see UCLA 3.5, and this one is the closer.
Right. Okay, last game on Friday is Iowa State versus Miami. Very interesting scheduling, by the way. I guess it's just automatic. This is the last Chicago. Miami's a 2.5-point favorite, 133-point total here. Yeah, I'm with you on Miami. You have a 2.5. I think that it's the offense right now. I mean, I know Iowa State can play some D, but they've got some players on Miami can score. I think they're just going to be able to outpace Iowa State in this one. Really funny that one of these teams are going to have a double-digit seed in the final in the Elite Eight, no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So it sets up for, dare I say, an easy path for either Providence or Kansas to make the Final Four. But I think these are the two teams. I mean, St. Peter's, of course, is Cinderella as well. But one of these is not. A couple of these teams are not like the others, and regardless, I don't see Miami advancing to New Orleans.
Yeah, I concur. I also like Miami in this game. We've seen pretty sharp line movement to them. This one opened up with Iowa State as about a half-point favorite, and right away you saw the Hurricanes money coming in and push it up to 2.5. And I think the big advantage that they have is their triumvirate of point guards, really. I mean, between McGusty, Wong, and Charlie Moore, they're all capable. And Iowa State all season has built themselves on creating turnovers. Defensively, they're 4th ranked creating turnovers, but this Miami team just doesn't turn the ball over. Only 13.6 of possessions end in a turnover, and that's good for 6th in the country. And so I think Iowa State's going to have a hard time scoring at all, and I think Miami wins this game pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I agree with you on there. So if we look at the Sunday matchups, that would set up Purdue probably for sure against UCLA likely. You don't have your Boilers in the Final Four, by the way.
I do not.
Know that.
Yeah.
So was that like a just personal hedge? Like, hey, I don't believe in my Boilers, but I really want to root for them?
Well, I root for my pocketbook, and I've never once in my life seen Purdue make it to a Final Four. So I don't make money on betting things that have never happened before.
I get it. But here's the thing about Purdue. There's no 1 seed. There's no 2 seed anymore. They're the high seed now. UCLA, they've certainly been there. I talked about it. I mean, the Akron handicap worked out, but I don't know, man. Of those 3 teams, I don't know. I mean, UCLA is better in your rating, and they're better in KenPom, but I haven't seen it. I'm very surprised. Like, I don't know. UCLA's metrics, I guess I got to see him play more. I've seen him play some pretty bad games this year. That's why it's weird. I mean, I've seen Purdue play sinkers too, but Purdue has talent, man. They have
Yeah.
talent. I think they're
Well,
going to
I
win
mean,
that game on Sunday. If they make it through, I think they're going to win that game on Sunday.
well, they're odds-on favorites to make it to the Final Four. I've looked around everywhere I've seen it's about minus 125 consensus on Purdue to
Right.
make it to New Orleans. So the odds makers certainly agree with you, and I do agree that they match up pretty well both with UCLA and North Carolina. So now they just got to go out and make it happen. I did book an Airbnb in New Orleans for next weekend, so just in
Yeah.
case. Yeah.
Well, Rainmaker's going to be down there too. Zach
Oh yeah.
Seaver planning to go, so
Nice.
hook up with him. But well, let's look at it. I mean, the thing is, what's interesting how this laid out, and not like they did it on purpose, but Saturday nights is the better games. I mean, it's just to me. I'm not going to say, and maybe we'll be wrong because I know you got to go to the famous Virginia Purdue Elite Eight game years ago. But I mean, Kansas, even or Providence, I mean, I don't see either of those teams losing to Miami or Iowa State, but stranger things have happened, right?
Certainly.
It could be a real blue blood final if you get Kansas in. If UCLA does, take out Purdue for you, you could have Duke, go there. And even Arizona's an old blue blood, it used to be a blue blood. It could be like what year are we in here? Because this is all these teams are in the Final Four, but
that would be
we'll
funny.
see. I just don't see one of these surprise guys. Tech could be one. I mean, they're not surprised. They've been there before. I don't think Houston's making it back. And then on the top end, I mean, Villanova is certainly a blue blood as well. So I think this first game will tell me something if it's going to be a wild weekend or not. But usually in this kind of round forward, the better teams usually win, even if it may not be seeded, but the better teams in Ken Palm and stuff win.
Yep. Any updated predictions for national champ from you?
I'm sticking with Arizona still.
Okay.
I still got Arizona and the Zags left, but I'm telling you, man, if Duke wins this game against Tech, I will start betting them money line every game because I just think that not just because of the Coach K thing, I saw something in them. When they played Sparty, I know Sparty's not that good. We know they're not that good, but if you watch that games, they played really well. Their offense played good. Their defense was playing great. Duke just took it to another level. Maybe they're not. I mean, I think Arizona has about equal level of talent as Duke does. Maybe a little bit better talent than the Zags. Duke has better talent than the Zags, but Duke has got more talent than Purdue, and UCLA and North Carolina on their end. We obviously saw North Carolina beat them once, but it's going to be an interesting play out. So maybe I'll be just rooting against them tonight. So get that out of the way.
Yeah. It's just tough to win 4 straight games with a defense so porous. I mean,
Yep.
I'll say that for both Duke and Purdue. So
No,
personally, I'm sticking with Arizona too.
When I do the original analysis, right, we've talked about this before, that the champion usually, damn it, just got erased. The champion usually has to be top 25 or usually top 20 offense and defense, right? So, and I kind of, obviously not all of this is perfect, but it was the Zags, Arizona, Kentucky was close there. They were like borderline. Baylor, UCLA, Houston, and then Auburn was on the fringe too. Well, you've knocked out 3 of those teams. Zags, Arizona, UCLA, Houston. Those are the teams that fit the profile, right? Of winning it all. It doesn't mean they can't make the final game with below numbers. So to me, I mean, you're right about UCLA. The metrics don't lie. They tell you that they should be there, but I just don't know if I trust it again. But we'll see. In Houston, hell, I mean, they played great last weekend. They didn't look good in their league play, so
Yeah, no
who
doubt.
knows? But I mean, this certainly Arizona's better on paper than Houston. Well, actually, they're not. They're actually pretty close. I mean, they're right there. They're actually Houston's 2 in Ken Palm versus 3, and their combined totals. Houston's 20 when you look at offensive defensive efficiency. They're 10 in both, whereas Arizona's 7 and 19. So technically, Houston's a better ball club, like at least the way I look at things. But I don't know, Action. It's not been my year to predict college basketball.
Well, I hope it's exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't look like we got any golf stuff. Looks like we're just going to close it out with college basketball, right?
Yeah, just a match play tournament this week. I didn't even bet anything myself.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, great. Well, America, we've only got a couple more episodes left of this season. We're going to do that again, right? Just after the championship. And we didn't really talk about it before, but close out the season after the Final Four weekend, and then take our break. But so we'll still post stuff on Twitter and Instagram and stuff as you follow us. My nephew Cooper started an Instagram account for Side Action.
Oh, sweet.
So we can tag it and everything. He also
social media maven.
I know. He also created a link tree, which I'm familiar with very vaguely. So I have to add Twitter and the other handles to the link tree. We're just learning this social media stuff. But so follow us on all those different endeavors. So follow us at Side Action on Twitter and on Instagram. Side Action Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right. Well, enjoy the games, everybody.